South China Morning Post, 10th of November 2022, the only method Beijing and New Delhi have to settle their border disputes. If China wishes to have good relations with India, it should return to the Akshai Chin territory it controls. Communist China last fought a war 60 years ago, which it lost, in the Sino-Vietnamese War of 1979. However, the triumph over Jawaharlal Nehru's India was hollow. Due in large part to Beijing's failure to learn valuable lessons, it caused more border problems than resolved. As China desperately needs a friend in Asia, the boundary disputes on the Himalayas continue to this day. You only need to read the Indian nationalists' commentary to see that they are still quite upset about it and the ongoing occupation of Indian territory. The brief 1962 conflict occurred during the latter stage of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which commanded the majority of global attention. Nehru's unsuccessful attempts to internationalize the dispute benefited Mao Zedong. Because the United States is waging a proxy war in Ukraine against Russia, its longtime nuclear-armed rival, people are again discussing the Cuban dilemma. The Indo-Pacific may find the 1962 war and its current relevance even more critical to the region's future. India is now referred to as the swing state by pundits. It might lean more toward China, the US, or Russia. It has made no bones about playing all sides at the moment. This is foolish, and China wants to divide up Indian intelligence. Therefore it is sponsoring all of the leftists in India. How can the US keep India from falling to them, if not win it over? Well, look inside yourself. China is glad to call anyone who publicly supports the One China policy as a friend and frequently thanks the Nixon-Kissinger administration for transferring diplomatic recognition from Taiwan to the mainland. With its One India policy regarding Kashmir, India holds a similar perspective. According to Sun Weidong, China's ambassador to India, the One China policy is the cornerstone of Beijing's relations with all nations, and he urged New Delhi to uphold it in August. But it's difficult to understand why India should take a stand in favor of Taiwan at this delicate time when China has continuously sided with Pakistan while being ambiguous, at times hostile, about the status of Kashmir. The US's shift to One China under Nixon and Kissinger is little compared to turning away from Pakistan and toward India over Kashmir. The US's change to One China under Nixon and Kissinger is little compared to turning away from Pakistan and toward India over Kashmir. India is undoubtedly more significant than Pakistan in Beijing's eyes in the context of the US Indo-Pacific strategy to restrict China. However, One India and the boundary issues obstruct friendly relations between neighbors. The broader Kashmir includes the Ladakh-Akshai Chin plains, which have played a significant role in border disputes since the 1962 war. In 2019, as part of its reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir, India declared Ladakh to be a member of its union. Recognizing One India will be made possible by the Chinese making a real and active diplomatic effort to resolve the status of Kashmir and the Ladakh-Akshai Chin region. In exchange, New Delhi can firmly recognize One China. It's interesting that 60 years of talks, which have occasionally broken down into violent fights between soldiers from the two armies in 2020, have largely failed to determine the exact location of their shared Himalayan borders. Most border disputes that have long caused friction in relations between the two nations would be resolved by mutual recognition of One China and One India, along with the return of the occupied territory of Akshai Chin. This would also greatly benefit Beijing's fight against Communist China in the new Asia-Pacific Cold War.